I remember holding the ultrasound picture, a blurry little bean, and saying to myself, this is it. This is everything I've ever wanted. My husband Mark had his arm draped around me, his eyes glistening, and in that moment, the future was as bright and beautiful as a summer morning. He didn't realize I was watching until I showed up at his boys' night with proof. His complexion turned white when he saw me clutching the divorce papers. Before the baby, before the betrayal, there was Mark and I. We met in college, a haze of late-night study sessions transforming into late-night chats turning into dreams that we shared. He was the charming, silly football player who somehow managed to look beyond my quiet, bookish facade. I saw his heart, bigger than any playbook, and his passion rivaling my own. We built our relationship brick by brick, on trust, laughter, and a shared vision of a warm little life. Our wedding day 3 years ago was like a fairy tale. White dress, sun shining, all our loved ones around. I remember Mark's vows, uttered with a shake in his voice, vows of eternity, promises to be my rock, my mate, my all. And he was my rock for many years. We started from scratch, in an apartment that was cluttered with books and Chinese takeout menus, but we were happy. We struggled, advanced each other's careers, he in accounting, mine in advertising, and over time, we inched into a cozy little house with a slice of garden I used to tend with affection. It wasn't extravagant, but it was ours, evidence of all the sacrifices and all the shared dreams. Then came the baby news. Oh God, the baby news. It was a Tuesday morning, I remember. I'd been behaving odd, feeling a bit sick, horribly tired. Mark was working and I, impulsively, did a test. 2 pink lines. My hands started shaking. I did another. And another. They all came out positive. I cried, equal amounts of sheer happiness and raw terror. When Mark came back home, I opened the door to meet him, trying to keep a serious face, but my eyes most surely betrayed me. I gave him the stick, and his jaw just fell. Then he scooped me up, spun me around, and we just stood there hugging each other, laughing and crying, whispering names, making arrangements. We were going to be parents. Our family was growing. It felt the most incredible thing in the world. My pregnancy was, well, it was a journey. The first trimester was abysmal with morning sickness, but Mark was great. He'd bring me ginger ale, hold my hair, prepare plain food, and never complained once at my sudden aversion to his favorite aftershave. He'd read us baby books to my growing belly, talk about how much he couldn't wait to teach our son. We found out at the 20-week scan that we were having a boy, to throw a football, or how to fix things around the house. My heart swelled every time. This was the husband I married. This was the father of my child. We were a team, a unit. As I reached my second trimester, the energy came back and nesting instinct hit with a vengeance. I was obsessed with preparing for our little one. Nursery colors, cribs, strollers, tiny onesies. My days were a blur of car seat safety rating comparisons and debating the advantages and disadvantages of different diaper brands. Mark would joke, "Babe, you're going to purchase every baby store within a 50-mile radius." He'd smile, and I'd flick his arm with my fingers, feeling that warmth pour over me. We even gave him a name, Leo. It was tough, gentle, beautiful. Every kick, every flutter, every ultrasound scan made this beautiful truth more real. We were making a home, a legacy. But somewhere, gradually, quietly, things shifted. It wasn't a sudden crack, more like a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor beneath our solid foundation. It started small. Mark, who used to be home right at 6 p.m., began staying late at work more often. "Big project, Han, gotta crunch these numbers," he'd say, his voice a little strained sometimes. I'd nod, understanding. Finance was demanding. Especially now, with a baby on the way, the pressure was on. Then were the boys' nights. They weren't anything out of the ordinary. Mark always had his poker nights or sporting events with his buddies. But they started getting more and more frequent, staying out later into the night. Sometimes he wouldn't even come home until the wee hours of the morning. "Lost track of time, babe. You know how it is when we get to talking," he'd mutter, smelling faintly of beer and something else. Something floral? I ignored it. Pregnancy hormones, yeah. My sense of smell was clearly super sensitive. He also started being secretive with his phone. His phone would just sit around, screen up. Now, it'd be face down, or he'd take it with him to the bathroom. If I needed to use it, he'd flinch a little, then roll his eyes and hand it over with a hurry, being over-casual about it. Here, honey, use mine, it's faster, but his eyes would dart to mine, for a second, then away. My girlfriends, God bless them, tried to be diplomatic. Is Mark still going out so much, honey? Sarah asked one afternoon, folding infinitesimal baby clothes. He seems very busy. I waved it off. Oh, you know Mark, always working himself to death, and the boys love getting caught up. But a seed had been planted. A tiny, annoying seed of doubt. One evening, 6 weeks before my due date, I was particularly miserable. My back ached, my feet were swollen, and Leo was doing acrobatics in my belly. Mark had departed for another boys' night out. He had promised to get back at midnight. Midnight came and went. Then 1 a.m. I attempted to call, no one picked up. Texted, no return call. I was lying in bed, the stillness of the house stifling, so lonely, the jabs in my belly the only comfort. At 3 o'clock in the morning, he finally opened the door. He reeked of alcohol and that overpowering flower scent. Hey, sleepyhead, he slurred, trying to brush a kiss on my forehead. I rolled away. Where have you been, Mark? My tone was strained with fear and growing annoyance. He groaned, just at Mike's, playing cards. We were good. Don't worry so, Alara. You have to get your rest. He didn't even look at me. He just stripped and collapsed. I didn't sleep after that. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the little motions within me. My heart ached. It wasn't just the late nights or the secret phone calls anymore. It was the emotional distance, the floating around me without looking at me, his tenderness replaced with a forced airiness. My gut, where my little baby lived, was screaming at me. This was not right. Something was dreadfully, awful wrong. But how could it be? We were having a baby. He loved me. He loved us. It must be stress. It had to be my hormones. I tried to deceive myself, but even to myself, the sentence sounded false. The boiling point came a week later. I was getting ready for my last prenatal checkup. Mark was working from home that day, which meant he was bogged down on his computer in his office. I just happened to pass by and heard him talking on the phone, his voice low. I didn't mean to be an eavesdropper, but one sentence hit me. No, baby, she's out for her doctor's appointment. We're clear. Baby? My blood ran cold. The phone was usually on speaker when he talked to employees. This wasn't. He hung up quickly when he heard my gasp, pretending to clear his throat. Everything okay, honey? He asked, his face a mask of concern. My heart tightened. I only managed to faint, yeah, fine, and tore out the door. That word, baby, rang in my head all the way through the appointment. It wasn't about the ultrasound or the doctor's assurances to Leo. It was about his baby. Not our Leo. Another baby. My brain reeled, fitting together all the pieces I had hitherto avoided. The late nights, the secrecy on the phone, the scent of flowers, the emotional remoteness. It all coalesced with a sickening thought. He wasn't working late. He wasn't at boys' night. He was with someone else. While I was pregnant with his child. The rest of the day was a blur of unvoiced tears and growing resolve. I was not going to accuse him without proof. I was not going to be the crazy pregnant wife. I was owed the truth, undeniable and unadorned. I had remembered him having said that he had a new client appointment that he had tonight. He had said that it was at a restaurant in downtown. My heart was pounding as I started my investigation. It was something out of a terrible movie, but that was my life, my marriage, my kid. I remembered he used my tablet to place an online order a couple of days earlier. His Google account was still on. I accessed his Google Maps history, and there it was. Not the nice downtown spot he had mentioned, but a tavern on the other side of town. The same tavern where he'd spent many boys' nights over the past few weeks. And one location continued to pop up, a hotel close by, 2 times in succession. My stomach churned, a mix of nausea and pure, unadulterated rage. I was kicked, and I had to put a hand on my stomach, a silent protest to my defenseless boy. This was not the life I had envisioned for him. This was not the father he needed. The final piece fell into my lap almost too conveniently. While he showered, I swiped his phone. My heart beat like a jackhammer against my chest. I knew his password, our anniversary. I browsed through his recent texts. And there, in the chain of messages with an unknown name, Amber. The messages were appallingly cloying, full of pet names and arrangements for tonight. Can't wait for our boys' night, one read, accompanied by a repugnant emoji. My vision blurred. I took pictures, my fingers locked. I sent them to my own phone. My hands were shaking so badly that I almost dropped the phone. The proof. There it was. A cold calm settled over me, pushing aside the shock. This was not a mistake. This was a calculated lie, a string of lies when I was most vulnerable. He left a couple of hours afterwards, giving me a peck on the forehead. Gotta go, babe. Big client meeting, then the boys for a swift one. He even winked at me. I smiled, an icily empty smile. Have fun, honey. Don't be too late. I watched him go, and then the dam broke. I collapsed onto the couch, crying down my face, ugly, guttural sobs racking my entire body. Leo kicked, a gentle reminder that I was not alone. I cradled my belly, whispering softly, "It's okay, baby. Mama's got you." The split wasn't a slow-burning flame. It was instant, a supernova of pain and shock. My beautiful future lost forever in a million broken fragments. The promises we'd constructed, the oaths he'd made, laid to waste. I felt naive, foolish, utterly betrayed. How could he? How could he do this to me, to us, when I bore his child? The physical pain of the contractions I'd been experiencing the past few weeks increased with the emotional pain. But between the sobs, a tough mother instinct burst forth. I was a mother now. I must be strong. Not just for me, but for Leo. This wasn't the end of my existence. This was the end of his spot in my existence, in our child's existence. I showered, forcing myself to walk, to breathe. I put on a maternity dress that did make me, for all practical purposes, presentable, given the hurricane raging inside. I checked my phone, double-checked the address he'd texted in his boys' night message. Then I phoned my lawyer, Sarah's husband, and he ran down the starting steps quickly. Before I set the phone down, I had 2 printed copies of divorce forms in my hand, a pen hidden in my purse, and a cold, hard resolve in my heart. The ride was unreal. My knuckles were white from how hard I was holding onto the steering wheel. Each street lamp that passed by seemed like a throbbing tick on a countdown clock to eventual blow-up. As I walked up to the bar, it appeared exactly as I'd pictured. Raucous, neon lights, dive music spilling out onto the sidewalk. And there, in the window, was him, Mark, laughing, drink in hand, surrounded by his circle of friends. And at his side, a blonde-haired woman, her hand resting on his arm. Amber. I gasped for air. It was true. All of it. The initial glimpse of them, so spontaneous, intimate, twisted the knife further. For a moment, I lost my hold. I yearned to turn back, to pretend as if I never saw it, to curl up in a ball and just disappear. But then Leo kicked, a solid jab, and it was as if he was reminding me, "You're not alone. You have me. Keep going." I pushed open the door, the noise of the bar hitting me like a body blow. Heads turned to look at me. I walked straight to their table, my gaze on Mark. He saw me first. His smile faltered. His eyes widened with pure panic crossing his face. The color drained from his face, making him look ghostly white. "Alara? What are you doing here?" he stuttered, standing up and knocking over his chair. I did not answer him. I looked at Amber, who now appeared to be confused, then scared. "Hi, Amber," I said, my tone firm, betraying nothing of the earthquake inside me. "You have to be Mark's, baby. I'm Alara, his wife." Amber's eyes darted from me to Mark, then back to me. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then I turned back to Mark, making eye contact with him. His friends also felt the shift and had become quiet, observing. I retrieved the divorce papers from my purse, double-folded, and placed them down firmly on the table in front of him. "You assumed I was too busy with all the baby stuff to notice," I breathed, my voice barely a whisper, but it cut across the sudden silence of the bar. "But I noticed, Mark. I noticed everything." I shoved the papers across to him. "Matthew them. And leave me alone. Leave our son alone." He just stared at the papers, then at me, his face a topography of shock and guilt and fear. He opened his lips, then closed them. No lies. No excuses. Silence. And one tear carving its path down his white cheek. Too late to cry, however. Too late to do anything. The next few weeks were a blur of attorneys, moving boxes, and the suffocating weight of sorrow. I lived in my sister's guest room, invited to her quiet condolences. With every kick, a rush of guarding instinct would surround me, blinding the pain. Leo was my anchor, my reason. Mark tried to contact me, a frantic series of phone calls and texts, begging for apologies, for second chances. He even showed up at my sister's, haggard and shattered. But the photo of him and Amber, careless adultery while I carried his child, was seared in my mind. I couldn't remove it, couldn't remove the emotions. "You made your choice, Mark," I said behind the closed door, the words weighted with undecried tears. "And now I'm making mine." It was a swift divorce, not really painful at all because of the undeniable proof I had. He did not fight it. He knew he had been wrong. The house went up for sale. Our common goals, our carefully built life, pulled us under bit by excruciating bit. It felt like an amputation, tearing off a part of me that I thought was inseparable. There were mornings when I could barely lift my head, mornings the pain was this crushing thing bearing down on me. I'd cry until my eyelids swelled shut, questioning things. Was I not enough? Was I too busy with the baby? Did I miss something? But then I would feel Leo stir, a reassuring gentle flutter, and a surge of raw determination would return. This wasn't about me being a failure. This was about him failing. And I wouldn't allow his failure to be the definition of my future or my son's. I leaned on my friends and loved ones like never before. My mother came to live with me, taking my hand and providing her own silent strength. Sarah and Emily took me out for distraction lunches, sat quietly in judgment-free company, and reminded me of who I was prior to Mark and what I was currently evolving into. They assisted me in choosing new furniture for my new, downsized apartment, a home that would be simply Leo's and mine. Gradually, agonizingly, the fog lifted. The hurt persisted, a dull ache that arose at random, but it no longer consumed me. I started looking forward rather than backward. I focused on getting accustomed to my new home, painting Leo's room a soothing blue, assembling the crib with my father's help. Each action, however small, was a step in the right direction, a reclaiming of my life. I discovered something amazing along the way. All the pain, I was stronger than I could ever have imagined. I had lived through the ultimate betrayal in my most vulnerable state, and I hadn't cracked. I was battered, yes, so hurt, but I wasn't broken. I was a mother about to give birth to a beautiful life, and that no man, no betrayal could ever take from me. When Leo did come, little perfect bundle of wails and folded skin, all the agony, all the sorrow, all the fury, all just melted away to be met with an overwhelming, all-encompassing love. Cradling him in my arms, looking into his wide-eyed purity, I knew that I'd done well. I'd saved him. I'd acted in honor, though it was difficult. Mark might have cheated, might have presumed I was too busy to notice, but he never counted on the strength of a pregnant woman, the rage of a mother. He lost it all. I gained my most precious jewel and a new sense of self. It wasn't the fairy tale I had imagined, but it was my story, and I was going to write the next chapter beautifully and powerfully with my son. If you've ever had something like this happen to you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if this post touched you even a little bit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell.